on the fractions 2 bar model problems. Here is our first question. Dave spent 1/4 of his birthday money on a Lego set and 2/3 of the remainder on a bicycle. He saved the remaining $120. How much money did he receive for his birthday? Okay, so you can solve this problem along with me on your worksheet. Dave spent 1/4 of his birthday money on a Lego set. So we can easily show this. We have Dave's birthday money. And we'll represent his birthday money with a bar model. And he spent 1/4 of it on a Lego set. So we'll split it into fourths. And 1/4 of it he spent on a Lego set. Now, 2/3 of the remainder he spent on a bicycle. So I'm just going to color in what he spent so far. Now it says 2/3 of the remainder. Now in this problem we're pretty lucky because the remainder is actually 3 parts. So we can easily take 2 of those to get 2/3 of the remainder. 2 out of 3 would be 2/3. So this part he spent on a bicycle because he spent 2/3 of the remainder on a bicycle. Then it tells us that he saved the remaining $120. So this is the remaining money, and that's $120. He saved that part. So the question is, how much money did he receive for his birthday? So we want to know all that money. So here we can see that we have 4 parts, 1, 2, 3, 4, and they're each 120. So the answer is just going to be 120 times 4, $480. So that is a lot of birthday money that he received, $480. Now for the next problem that you're going to try on your own, I'm just going to give you a little hint before you start. On this next problem, you'll probably start kind of like we did here with a bar model with a certain number of equal parts. But then you might determine that you might need to break it down further. For example, you might need to break each part down into 2. And as long as you are consistent in the way you break down your parts, so you still end up with a number of equal parts, you can go ahead and do that, and that will probably help you solve the problem. So that is my hint for the next problem. Go ahead and get started, pause the video, and come back when you're done, and we'll go over that question. Okay, here we are, back with problem number 2. 2/3 of a class went ice skating. 1/2 of the remainder went sledding. All the rest remained at school. What fraction of the class remained at school? Okay, so our quantity that we're kind of breaking up here is the kids in a class, right? So we have kids in a class. Okay, and we start by saying 2/3 of a class went ice skating. So let's break it into thirds. And we say 2/3 went ice skating. Okay, and I'm going to color it in again like last time so we can see it clearly. So these 2/3 went ice skating. Now it says 1/2 of the remainder went sledding. Now here's where I said we might have to break up, because this piece here, this piece that remains, it says 1/2 of the remainder. So we have to break that up into halves. But if we break that up, we want to break all the parts up so that we still have equal parts. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Now we have 6 parts. So let's see here. It says 1/2 of the remainder went sledding. So if we want to color in half of the remainder. This is the remainder, and we color in half. So these people went sledding. What is the question? The question is, what fraction of the class remained at school? So we want to know this part here that remained at school, what fraction is that of the whole class? Well, now we can see that we started with 3 parts, 1, 2, 3, but then we broke them up. Each of the 3 parts we broke into 2, so now we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 parts, and we see that 1/6, this last part, remained at school. So the answer is, and I should have written out the complete sentence on the last one, but I didn't, so let's do that on this one for sure. What fraction of the class remained at school? We could say 1/6 of the class remained at school. As a reminder, I always want you to write out a complete sentence that answers the question. That way you make sure you're answering the right question. Here's the question, and you want to make sure they match. You're answering the right question. So this last problem we did is a really good example of fraction multiplication. So I just want to take a minute to expand on that. So this last problem, let's look again what we were solving. We have kids in a class, 2/3 went ice skating. This is a third, this is a third. 2/3 went ice skating. We have a third left. A half of those kids went sledding and a half stayed at school. Our question was, what fraction stayed at school? So the 1/2 of the 1/3 we find as 1/6, because now we have 6 parts. Only 1 is left. That's 1/6. So what we're doing here is we're taking 1/2 of 1/3, and we're getting 1/6. 1/2 of 1/3, that's really 1/2 times 1/3. That's fraction multiplication. And in fraction multiplication, the rules for multiplying fractions is that you take numerator times numerator to get the numerator of the product, and denominator times denominator to get the denominator of the product. So 1 times 1 is 1. 2 times 3 is 6. We may or may not have covered that in this class, but I just want to show you that the rules for multiplication are going to give you the same answer. The rules for fraction multiplication will give you the same answer as drawing a bar model to figure out fraction multiplication. Bar models are a really good way to visualize fraction multiplication. All right, that's it. Work on your last problem, and we'll go over it in class.